Welcome to the Teaching Science Podcast.
These episodes are recorded on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern in our virtual Teachers Lounge.
If you would like to join us on a Monday to chat about a topic related to science education, go to the calendar in our show description to get the link for the week.
You can listen to the recorded discussions as a podcast from any major podcast provider or on the Superheroes of Science YouTube channel. And this party is going to be about conscious discipline.
Mm-hmm.
But now, seriously, we wanted to talk about this because you were doing PDs there at the school, and you were very excited about it, and you found it as something useful in your classroom. And so,
Yeah, I sure did.
why wouldn't we share that with the world and maybe give some other people some insight from someone who's actually in the classroom and trying this out with kindergarten? I figured if it can be done with kindergarten, by George, you can do it with anybody. So those little wannabe humans can figure it out.
The conscious discipline book study that we were doing definitely targets K2, but there is definitely another component to it for older grades if you wanted to get into it. And it can all be adapted, but it's because, and before I say anything else, I am not an expert. I'm not getting paid by conscious discipline. It's just a book study that we did that I fell in love with, and the philosophy behind it was something that I could connect with as a classroom teacher and as a parent. And I think that I found a lot of value in it, and I was really excited about what the philosophy behind it, what the philosophy was behind it, and how to approach certain things. And so I'm a self-read, I guess that's the right word for it, self-learned expert. I'm not like I have interpreted what I've read to mean something, and I don't know if you go to a specific conscious discipline training, that might come across a little differently. See what I'm saying?
That's a fair enough disclaimer. That's fair. That's good to probably put that in.
Yeah.
But you're someone who did actually read the book and use it in your class. And you saw a big improvement. You saw a recognizable behavior changes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the premise behind conscious discipline is all about building relationships, which is a big kind of a buzzword right now. Like whenever you go to a PD, they're like, oh, you got to build relationships with your students. Oh, you got to build relationships, so you hear it a lot. But what I loved about it the most is that it really focuses on the relationship between teacher and child, and amongst child to child. So it's not just the relationship that I'm building with them that I saw grow. I saw it grow amongst each other. So which was fantastic, especially with that 5 years old, and they're very egocentric kids. That's just their mindset. The world revolves around them, especially if they've never, they don't have siblings, or even if they do, but that's just their mindset is, it's all about me. That's kind of their idea about the world. And so to see them interacting with each other and problem solving with each other, I had a lot less tattling. I had a lot less like little pop-up mean girl, mean boy kind of stuff come up because they responded to each other like a family. So by building those relationships between adult and kids, and the kids relationships, you really kind of the climate in your classroom is definitely one that's promoted as a family, and you tell the kids that, this is our Blue Ridge. Sorry, that's my school. This is our school family. You have a family at home and there's all different kinds of people who comprise your family. We have the same thing here at school. We call it our school family, and we are going to treat each other with respect. We're going to be kind to each other. We're going to problem solve. You kind of set the expectations out with things like that. And then the more but you can't just say it. You got to act it. You got to walk the walk. So if you don't treat them with respect and kindness and grace, they are not going to treat each other that way. So you really have to, I don't want to say drink the Kool-Aid. That's what we say at school, but You really have to really believe it, and live it, because otherwise the kids are not dumb. They know when you're being facetious or kind of over there. Even 5-year-olds, they're like, excuse me, like, so for example, we had a visitor come in and she was wanting to try out some things that she had learned from conscious discipline, but it was very much rehearsed, and it was not from her heart, it was from the book. And so I remember her going over to one of my particular kids who I had a lot of success with conscious discipline with, and she kind of said something to him that was from the book, and it was um, it sounded great. He had no plan. He was like, really, lady, like you could just see his expression and his demeanor kind of change, because he knew she was kind of, she didn't mean it, whatever it was that she was talking to him about. So my whole point is you gotta believe it, and you gotta live it in the classroom, and even sometimes it's hard because you want to snap, at some of them, but you got to remember that it's what kind of example you're setting for the kids, and are you really walking the walk, not just spout mouth stuff. That
See,
the premise is, I'm sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
I wasn't trying to interrupt. I was just going to point out that you do a really good job of modeling expected behaviors to your students. And too often I'm in classrooms and I see a teacher not modeling the behaviors they expect from the students. They expect from an
Mhm.
entirely different behavior, but you do a good job of modeling it with them and explaining to them your thought processes, whether that's what you're really thinking or not. Explaining to them the thought processes behind the behavior. That's something that you have been really good at, that I've noticed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's just something, and I think that's why conscious discipline kind of hidden or connected. I connected with it so much is because a lot of the stuff that I read, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly how I feel. Like I can do this. Like I want this for my classroom. I want this feeling of family. I want this feeling of connectedness. I want this. That's for me. Building relationships isn't just something that you say that you do. You know what I mean? Like I truly believe those kids are mine. Like while they're there, when they're there, and when they're gone, or they move on to the next grade, it's sometimes it's painful, because you get so connected to them, and it's really well, it's tough. The last day of school is really really hard, even with some of the challenging behaviors that you have. And on that kind of a note, the one thing I love about conscious discipline too, it's that it reaches every child. So whether they are the kid that sits there and does everything that you say, and like is, I don't want to say the angel child, the one that follows the rules, like all of that, and it meets the kids in the middle. No, not like you. The kids in the middle, the ones who are a little rough around the edges, who maybe haven't been taught certain things or how to respond to each other kids, or social kind of cues and that kind of stuff. It hits those kids too. And then um, it also reaches some of the challenging behaviors, maybe not in the way that you would expect it to. Like you still have the challenging behaviors. Sometimes the outlier kids like that um, don't necessarily respond as well to like the specific things that you're saying or whatever, but they do respond to the climate of the classroom, and they respond to the expectations that you set, and they respond to the fact that when they come back after having challenging behaviors, the other kids welcome them back. Like they're like, oh, I'm so glad you're feeling better now. Like they have the other kids have the compassion for those challenging behaviors that I haven't seen before.
So
So
what did you do differently that you haven't done in the last 400 years you've been teaching?
well, I think one of the big things, there's lots of different components, but one of the things that we have done that's really kind of changed thing is that we wish we have a morning meeting, and it's very connected, and we do a lot of singing, and we do a lot of um, rhymes, and we do a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's a time when we are all together connected as a family, that we are united in an activity. And then we have butterflies that the kids place on a commitment board. So we will, and I haven't started that with my class yet this year. I need to get my roster kind of settled before I start
Yeah.
making all of the
You can figure
things that
out
go
who's
with it.
actually going to be in your class.
Yeah, people are coming and going, moment by moment. But so you said from the beginning, you said everybody has a role in the classroom. Okay, so my role is the safekeeper, and the kids know no matter what happens throughout the day, whether it just doesn't matter what situation it is. My job is to keep them safe at school.
Okay.
No doubts. So as soon as you walk in my classroom door, you can leave everything else behind if you can that you were concerned about, because Mrs. Smith is in charge. I am the one that's going to keep you safe. So you don't have to worry about when's your next lunch, when is lunch coming, when is this going to happen, when is that going to happen, because I am the one that's going to take care of you throughout the day. And that's a really big component. A lot of kids don't know. So they come in and they are frazzled from their day already at home that they've had in the hour that they've been up, but they walk in the door and you remind them, I'm the safekeeper. My job is to keep you safe. And you can kind of see that they can leave part of that behind. Not all kids, but a lot of kids can. And then the kids are expected to make a commitment. So for kindergarten, they're pretty basic, like things that would help make our classroom family run smoothly. So back in the old days, you might have called them rules. So they're not really rules anymore. It's more of I can. We always start it with I can, because that's very proactive versus reactive. So I can use my walking feet, which sounds dumb, but it's something that keeps our classroom running smoothly. Kids don't get hurt when other kids are running around or when they're walking. I can use my watching eyes. So I can use my kind words. And there's a couple others. I can use my kind words. Oh, I can use my safe touches or kind hands. So the whole point of those, the kids decide. Sometimes I decide as if it's if the class is struggling with keeping hands to self, I might choose as the safekeeper. I'm deciding that we need to focus this today on keeping kind hands. I can use my hands in a kind way. So that really sets the stage for the whole day. And then you can go back and revisit it. At lunchtime, I had one teacher that I know who her kids did great, went to lunch, recess, came back, and they were a disaster. So she would have to resit them down, do kind of another mini morning meeting with the uniting activity and the commitment board, and then they were ready to start the afternoon. So it was just something like that. But I love it because each one of them, it sounds very basic to say I can use my watching eyes, but we really kind of dissect that until they decide, okay, so I can use my watching eyes when someone is talking to me. I'm going to look at them in the face. So we talk about all of those little pieces that are part of that. It's not just I'm going to watch the teacher all day long and zone out. I'm going to make eye contact with someone when I greet them. That's using watching eyes. I'm going to look out for people who are struggling. That's part of it. I can use my watching eyes by looking out for people who need help. And I can help tie shoes, or I can help keep somebody on task, or I can help someone that way. So taking each one from a face level is it's very basic, but if you dissect them, then there's a lot of social, emotional teaching that goes in there with each one of those commitments, even like kind hands. So we talk about, I can use kind hands to help someone when they fall down. So then then that leads into, well, when I fell down, my brother laughed at me, and that made me feel really terrible, so, and then we were like, okay, so what would have been better? It would have been better if he would have used his helping hands to help me up, and then the judgment's not there anymore, that whole feeling. So that's a big component of it. Classroom jobs are a big component because we talk about how every child has a job. And the year I had 22 kids, it was a pain in the rear, but I made sure every one of my kids at all 22 had a job, because we talk about how if somebody doesn't do their job throughout the day, then our classroom unit, our family unit does not run smoothly. So if the kid who's in charge of hand sanitizer forgets to squirt the hand sanitizer before lunch, then we're running late. We can't get there on time. The kids are not healthy, like all of that stuff, so they love it. Even if their job is something as simple as pushing in the chairs at the end of the day, like something like that. So they find that gives them a sense of pride and ownership and connectedness to the classroom, because that's their job. I'm going to do that job, and I'm going to do it well. Some jobs are more well loved than others, but they don't care. And I used to have a vacation board where the kids, like, I would have like 20 jobs, and then 2 kids were on vacation. They didn't like being on vacation. They didn't want it. So I was like, well, and according to the book, Conscious Discipline Idea, which was written by Dr. Becky Bailey, by the way. Anyway, every kid needs to have a job, because in a family, every person should have a job, right? In order to make things run smoothly. So that's a big piece of it. And another connecting activity that we do that's pretty vital to the morning meeting is that when kids are gone, so once they put their butterfly or whatever you want on the commitment board, then the kids who are not there, we wish them well. And so we make a big deal out of, oh my goodness, like Steven's not at school today, we really miss him. I think he's going to the doctor today, so sometimes you tell them why, sometimes you're like, no, they're just sick, whatever. And then the kids put their hands over their heart and we say, Steven, we wish you well with all of our love. And we send them those little, which sounds kind of hippy skippy, but it's really cool. The kids love it.
Exactly what I was thinking.
So, and the kids they close their eyes, and we talk about how we're going to think of something positive about that person, so we're going to think about, what does that child really love? Well, Steven really loves playing with Legos. So we're going to really think about how, we're going to imagine him playing with Legos, and we're going to wish him well so that he feels better enough to come back to school. And then there's a note. I have it scripted out on a piece of paper with a box, and then at the bottom it says, at the top is just a blank box, and then it says, Dear blank, we wish you well. And it says, love, Mrs. Smith's family, classroom family. And then so one of the jobs is the wish well person, and they get to put the kids' butterfly on the wish well board, so we can see them throughout the day and wish them well whenever we want. And then the kids draw a picture for that child, and they put it in their mailbox. And so when they come back to school, they have a letter from their friends that shows how much we missed them. So that also adds that big piece of connectedness to the classroom, because we know when you're gone, and we miss you, and we think about you when you're gone, and they don't realize that, so that they get so excited. I had a challenging kid a couple of years ago who was rough around the edges. He never would say anything kind to anybody. He was pretty cantankerous all the time, pretty negative. And then he was gone for a couple of days. And when he came back, he had 2 wishful notes. And he got those notes from the wishful person who got to deliver the notes to him. And he was like, his demeanor, he melted. It was amazing to watch that. And he smiled, and he looked at these letters, and he said, oh, they wrote me letters. They really missed me, and that really connected to him, and he loved it. Now, we still had challenging behavior lots of times, but then I felt like at that point he felt connected to the classroom. You know what I mean? So we were not focusing on his behavior anymore. We were focusing on the fact that he was part of our room, and we missed him when he was gone. I might have breathed a sigh of relief a little bit when he was gone some days, because it went a little bit smooth. Okay.
I was just going to ask, is this the damn son?
No, 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 no. I didn't do conscious discipline with him, but I would have loved to. I think
I
he would
didn't
have.
think you did yet. Then that was hilarious. Oh, you might as well tell the story.
Yeah, well, we have a program called Coach Kids where we connect kids with adults in the community, and then they get to come eat lunch with them once a week, and then it's really awesome. It's all about building relationships, and that people are they're connected to somebody else, even outside of their family, outside of their school. So my mom was the coach kid for this little boy that was in my room. And so at the end of the year, we have this big carnival, and we get to go, and they get to play games, and they eat hot dogs, and it's just so exciting. And so we walk. I have a coach kid as well, and so she and I were taking our boys around, and we walked around the corner of the carnival, and there was this huge, like, bouncy slide thing. And so um, my mom's little boy walked around the corner, and he said, "Damn, son, that is the biggest slide I've ever seen."
Oh
So
my
here we were. He was 5. So here we were, and and at this point, you're like, "What do I do?" I mean, like, he had no idea what he said was maybe not
Right,
appropriate, you know. So you're trying not to A, laugh, and
right.
B, here are all these community members and pastors and all these, bankers and all these people walking around, and you're like, do I correct him, or do I just be like, hey, yeah, you're right, this is really cool? So we just kind of played it cool,
Yeah.
and just yeah, went on. But
Oh my goodness.
that was not the first time some things like that happened. My mom always had interesting stories to tell about eating lunch with him and things that he would say. So it was that he really had no idea that that was
Well, yeah,
inappropriate.
and I get that a lot in the high school. And I think a lot of times I would hear kids say things and it just kind of hit me like, I think I think this is just how this is part of their pattern of speech. Like, this is what they hear at home. This is how they communicate. It's not that they're being disrespectful. Now, there's no place for it in the
No,
classroom either, but I think it was like, I just remember hitting that point one day thinking they're not being intentionally disrespectful. Like, this is just how this child, like their family, this is how they communicate together. And so it was just interesting.
exactly.
But Amy, I was going to say two things from, I love everything you're describing. And this is just, sounds like an amazing program. And I think
Hmm.
with the vacation, or not the vacation, with the jobs, I think probably a lot of credit goes to you, because I imagine the kids are very excited to do whatever their job is because they probably love getting praise from you. Like, I'm sure that you probably make them feel good about the job that they're doing. So I can only imagine that's their part of their enjoying these different jobs and things. And then the other thing is, I love, and I think for any age, when you mentioned about talking about other, what could we have said, if something goes on, or what's something better that we could have done. So talking about these rather than, I think that maybe the old style or a different type of discipline where it's like, you should never do that again. And then it's just done. And then it's like, there's no follow-up, because I've always thought with children, no matter what their age, I think from 0 to 18, like, okay, what's something you could do next time instead that would be a better outcome? So I love that you have that focus, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, thank you. Then to bring and to think about that point just a little bit, conscious discipline is very much brain research oriented. So we talk about how when your lid is flipped, like your amygdala is in control of your body, then you can't problem solve. Like, there's no way to do it because you're so you're in that survival mode at that point. So it's really important to not take things personally, because the kids are gonna say and do and act certain ways that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, why are they doing this to me? Well, they're not doing it to you.
Right.
They're responding to a behavior or a feeling that they're having that they don't know how to handle,
Yes.
a big emotion. So to instead to let figure out what it's going to take, and that's the part that kind of falls apart for me. Like, sometimes I don't always feel successful at being able to regulate them as quickly as I wish I could, or that having to call for support, which is natural and should happen, because there are times when if you're frustrated and you don't want to see whoever is looking at you at that moment, so I've been
Right.
the one being there all day. This kid is now frustrated and having these big emotions. He doesn't want to see me. Like I still have that connection with him, but he needs to walk away. Like or I need to walk away, or one or the other, so it's okay to call for support. I had a hard time with that for a while, but because I wanted to be the one that solved it. Well, I can't, you can't, the kid has to solve it with help, but sometimes it can't be me that facilitates it. It's got to be somebody else.
Well, and I just think in healthy relationships too, that's just modeling for later on. You can't always, sometimes you do need to walk away, and that is the healthier thing than, barking at a wall. It's just, it's, yeah.
But it's the thinking that happens after, that's where the change occurs, so after the kid's regulated, or after they've had two kids have had a blowout, on the playground. Ouch. Sorry, the cat just bit me. A blowout on the playground, or a fight over a toy, in that heat of the moment, you could teach so you were green in the face, and they're not going to hear it, right? They're not going to be in the mindset that they're ready to solve that problem. So instead, do what you need to do within limits to get them to calm down. And then conscious discipline is big into having the kids help problem solve. That I saw a big change in my kids was teaching them to use they call it their big voice. And so before, that helps the kids who are easily run over, right? The doormats,
Yeah.
which we all are, the people pleasers, which I know how that feels, or the aggressors, and the ones who are always getting maybe taken advantage of, that they because they don't know how to use their big voice, or they didn't know they had one, so we talk about how and it takes a lot of modeling, and I look like a fool, but the kids love it, and it really helps drive the message home, because I show them how to use, that they've got to be assertive. We talk about what that means, but not mean. And they look at the other person and they say, I don't like it when you, then they name the behavior, but you can't just stop there, because then the kid doesn't know how to fix it. So you're like, I don't like it when you take my toys away, and you can't, after that, then what? Then next time, ask me for a turn. So it's all about naming the problem, offering a solution. Or, I don't like it when you take my toys away. Next time, wait till I put it down, and then you can have it. Like that kind of thing.
Right.
And I love giving the kids the power to use that big voice, because I don't hear tattling as much anymore when that piece comes into play. They feel the empowerment of being able to tell somebody without that, about their feelings, or about what they don't like, and they are able to help solve that problem by offering a solution.
Yeah.
And some of them are really good at it, some of them are not, so I don't know. I just think it's very empowering for all kids to be able to say that. And I even tell them, there are things that I do, I am not in this situation. Yes, I'm the safekeeper. Yes, I'm in control of the classroom. But if there's something that I do that you don't like, you can say, Mrs. Smith, I don't like it when you take recess away. Next time, can I walk a lap, or or something like that, like, just that it's okay to work. I want to hear it too, like, I'm not perfect, I'm human. I need to hear those things as well. And it's respectful. It's not disrespectful to tell someone that you don't like what they're doing, and that they need to fix it by X, Y, or Z. So that was another key piece. And I feel like that's a great way to, if you put it back on them, then they are learning to problem solve from all different points of the curriculum. They're not just problem solving in math or science or whatever, but they are problem solving for their social emotional learning as well. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I just really like how you were talking about their big voice, and how it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't, just because they're learning to be respectful and using kind words and things, it doesn't mean that everything's happy all the time. And it's, you know, and if you don't have a smile, that it's not bad, but that they're learning real life skills and how to relate to one another and name things and offer suggestions for next time. I just think that's just fabulous.
Yeah, giving them a voice.
Mhm.
And one last thing, I know we're gonna wrap it up. I'll make it quick. But the one last thing that I wanted to point out about conscious discipline that I love is that everything's a teachable moment. So, you know how you hear people say, "Oh my goodness, friend, I like it how you are sitting on your pockets. You're sitting on your pockets. Look at so and so. You know, everybody look at so and so." But instead, I, conscious discipline really wants the teacher to paint a picture. So, like for example, getting in line at the first few days of kindergarten, getting in a line to go anywhere or to stay in line to get it from point A to point B is nearly a disaster. So, by showing the kids, like, or by painting the picture, like, okay, when we're walking in line or when we're going from our classroom to lunch, our hands look like this, and you show them. Our feet look like this, and you show them. Our mouths look like this, and they're quiet, you know. So it's really, and that carries over to all different areas of the classroom too, not just in the hallway, but, you know, you can say, wow, you know, so and so, you did it. You picked up your scissors and you cut the paper on the line. You know, do you notice how that's like it's very descriptive about what they are doing, you know, so everything's action oriented. So that really changes a lot of behavior too. Like, oh my goodness, you know, um, MJ, you didn't, your pencil broke. And instead of asking, or instead of just sitting there, you stood up and walked over and you got another pencil out of the pencil box. Do you think you could show Stephen where the pencils are next time when he breaks his pencil? You know, so it's a lot of very descriptive language that goes with it that really kind of helps kids know without a doubt what you want to see, what it needs to look like, and then how to follow through with it.
That's
Well,
excellent.
okay. I think
Yeah.
there's things that we could use with adults.
Yeah.
We might try that next outreach meeting.
I think-
That might help it go a little smoother.
And you can do it. They don't even know you're doing it. That's the thing. You can
Yeah,
just sneak it right in there. So
there you go. There you
Oh,
go.
I'm totally gonna do that.
I think you should. I think you should.
We're still being recorded, so I won't give examples.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, if anybody's curious about conscious discipline, and I would definitely encourage you to go online. There's all kinds of YouTube videos with Becky Bailey that talks, and she's the creator of conscious discipline. And you know, so that's how I learned a lot. I got on there, and there's a lot of videos to watch. She's done some TED Talks that are really good. Her book is amazing. It doesn't, when you get it, you're like, what's this? You know, like there's not much to it. It doesn't look like, but then when you get into it, it's the philosophy behind it that is the key. You know,
Okay.
so I mean, I would encourage you to. I mean, I just love it. Like I just love the way that it requires us to treat each other with kindness and respect and with grace, and I wish adults would be more like that outside of the classroom, you know. So
Well, I'm glad you're
Yeah.
starting to teach part of the next generation to be that way.
Absolutely.
I think that the whole giving them a voice is the most important thing. And I love
yeah.
that oftentimes we're like in classrooms and stuff. And I mean, I myself, I think I might even said that when in the classroom as a teacher that, you know, hey, we are a community.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of lip service. I said, hey, we will be a community, daggone it, you know, more or less. I might as well have said that, but
Yeah.
not saying, you know, giving them a voice in it as well. That's something I think I probably could have done better myself. And so I do like that aspect of it. And so which is why I asked you if we could talk about that today, because that's just something really good. And it does. I mean, we're halfway kidding about doing it with adults, but only half,
Right.
because it's like, I mean, it's, not too long ago, I had to send an email and try to diffuse the situation.
Right.
And I thought of, okay, it's
Yeah.
different things of how to do that in a way that's not going to hurt someone's feelings,
Right.
but without just being a big wimp, which wasn't going to happen.
Well, and that's exactly, I think, points right. I mean, they're learning right away in kindergarten. Like you don't have to back down. Even if that's your tendency, like you're empowering them and giving them words for how to handle these when they feel bad about something or someone else's action, that they don't have to just shut down. Like they're learning the words to use to express themselves and say, next time, could you please try? And they're doing that in a safe environment.
Right. I think that's what makes you hit the nail on the head on that, because you allow them that opportunity, and the kids won't necessarily just jump in and do it on their own. They still have at first, so you have to definitely facilitate that, and be willing to take the time, because it does take a little bit of time to stop what you're doing and kind of help them through that situation. But it's definitely worth it, because after 3 or 4 times, for some kids, that's all it takes, and they're like, this is a safe place. And I've had kids get snarky before, and then you've got to revisit it and say, now listen, and I don't necessarily point them out, but like the next day during morning meeting, I'll say, okay, now I'm going to be the aggressor or whatever, and you're going to be or vice versa. And then I kind of show them the 2 different ways it could sound by doing like a little drama, little thing, act it out. And then they're like, oh no, like the first time you said it, that sounded really mean, but the second time you said it was more kind, like I want to be more like the second one or whatever. So that's
well, and removing the time and like you said, using the next day and hearing it those different ways and from a different perspective, I think that's probably very helpful.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's so much more to the program, or not. It's not even a program. It's more of a philosophy of thinking about behavior management and classroom climate. So there's also a family component, so I could see it definitely fitting into families with kids. And I mean, there's just so much to it. Like once you get started, it's just so much to learn. Like I will never be done learning about it, because there's just so much. But those are the pieces that I picked out to practice first, then I'm going to go back in and look through the book and pick some more things out that I'm like, or reread some chapters and be like, this is what I need to focus on next.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks for hanging out with us in our virtual lounge.
Please like, download, and subscribe, and share the love.
Oh, I was going to say share the love.
Find us on Facebook,
Twitter, YouTube,
and follow us everywhere.
Just not in a creeper way.